Hello guys, and we are here today with another Traptrix deck profile. I got a decent amount of views on my proactive build, and so I decided to give this a reactive build. And what I mean by proactive and reactive is making cards before your opponent activates anything to prevent or to dissuade your opponent from activating those cards. The reactive build is stun. It's control versus stun pretty much. Is to just punish your opponent for activating stuff. That is the gimmick of this deck, is that if your opponent does anything, you're gonna get rid of it. You're gonna punish your opponent, you're gonna get rid of it and destroy it. So we're not really focusing too much on negating. There is some control in the deck, but we're focusing more on getting rid of the stuff your opponent brings out. That is what we're focusing on doing. So let's go into the deck. 2 Dionea, 3 Canclog, but 3 isn't bad because you do kind of want to see her. She allows you to summon out Mamilio from your graveyard, and so it just really helps with making rank 4 plays and actually making an aggressive play. If she is special, because Diona can special summon herself, you can use one of your whole cards that are in your graveyard and set it, but it will be banished during the end phase of your next turn, so that is something to note. But it allows you to reuse your trap holes, which is really nice. And then Mamilio, she will search out our whole normal trap cards, which is what makes her so amazing, is that she's a 16, which isn't a lot of attack, but being able to search out your trap cards, it's just really nice. And then pretty much that's all you do in this deck, is you set 5, you summon, well you set 4, summon Mamilio, search, and then set that in one of those orders. And then you just protect your Mamilio and keep it alive and just keep on poking your opponent as much as possible. And then Graydles. Now I want to talk about the Graydles real quick. The Graydles don't like Traptrix. Let's say that right now, because if your opponent has no monsters, then you can't use the Graydles. You can poke with them, but that's putting a little bit too much risk, and they're not really big. But they want a monster to take. There has to be a monster on the field for them to take, and that's why they don't like Traptrix. But Traptrix like Graydles, and that's the thing that this deck is. This is Traptrix Graydles, not Graydle Traptrix. If you were to run Slime, if you were to run the Synchros, if you were to run 3 of all of them, then yeah, no, I wouldn't be running this much stun. But because we're running only a couple of them, this is more to support the Traptrix engine and everything else, because we're using it to get rid of those monsters that are normal summon that we don't get rid of, or that we can't get rid of right away. That's what the Graydles are used for. That is that's their role in this deck pretty much. Wow. If you were to play pure Graydles, then you wouldn't be doing that. But anyways, so with the Graydles, what to note is, depending on their color, they will steal different things. Or, well, they don't steal different things. They can be triggered based off of different things. Eagle can be triggered off of monster effects. Cobra can be triggered off of trap cards. And Alligator can be triggered off of spell cards. That's why we're running 3 of them. And they can all be triggered off of being destroyed by battle. And you can take any monster your opponent controls. Your opponent cannot attack, because sometimes your opponent would think, oh, if I attack with this monster, he has to take this monster. No, you can take whatever you want, as long as there isn't some other effect preventing you from targeting. And then Instant Fusion, probably our most offensive card in the game. And it just allows us to make free rank 4s. Mageki, of course, 3 upstarts, 2 Twin Twisters, and this is probably the reason why this deck isn't going to be so well this format, is because they're definitely going to be citing another one of this. And if they don't main 2, they're going to be citing in 2 more. So this card can be a pain for the deck to play against. And then Graydle Impact. Graydle Impact's very useful, because if you have during your end phase, you search a Graydle, so it allows you to go really plus, just constantly get a monster to your hand that can take another opponent's monster, which is just really good. And then it has the other effect where you can be a Scrap Iron Scarecrow, not a Scrap Iron Scarecrow, a Scrap Dragon. That's the card. Target a Graydle monster, destroy it, and then destroy a card your opponent controls, or destroys at the same time. So really great to get rid of your opponent's back row, their notices and whatnot, so that way when you use Graydle Alligator, which gets its effect triggered off of spell cards when destroyed by spell cards, you can then take your opponent's monster. So that's really the offensive plays this deck has, and you have to make those choices sometimes. You have Mamilio or Alligator in hand, you have to make those choices, although you really don't want to have too many monsters in your hand unless you have a whole bunch of Graydles that you searched off of Impact. So just really great to just get you the monsters. You just get rid of your opponent's monster, take them, and if any of your Graydles are destroyed while equipped to your opponent's monster, your opponent's monster is destroyed. So there's no getting back. They cannot get the monster back. Do note that if you Book of Moon, a card that's equipped with the Graydle monster, you keep it for good, it becomes yours. There's nothing your opponent can do except destroy it, as if you were to summon it yourself. So that's something to know. We don't run Book of Moon in this deck because it doesn't destroy, but if you wanted to, you could play that card. And then Chicken Game. Chicken Game is what makes this deck so useful, and why. When it comes to Chicken Game, it's either you have to play a really fast deck or a really slow deck. This is a really slow deck. And why this works so well is because you draw into 2 trap cards, you draw into Mind Crush, you draw into Time Space, or whatever you draw into. That can stop like 4 of your opponent's cards. Because it requires 2 cards to either Pendulum Summon to set up your scale, it requires 2 to Synchro, 2 to Exia Summon. And yeah, they could use cards they already had and whatnot, but you only need to use your 1 Time Space to stop 1 Exia Summon. That's what makes trap cards so powerful. That's what makes this deck so powerful, is that, oh, flip Solemn Notice, you just Pendulum Summon 5 monsters, just boom, all gone. And that's why Chicken Game is so amazing in this deck, because it gets you 2 of them. It allows you to replenish your back row, because your opponent, if they can't Twin Twist to it, either they're not going to do anything, and then you can just poke them, keep on poking them, or they're going to try to get rid of as much back row as they can, and they're going to use their 6 cards, because you want to go first. You do want to go first in this deck. They're going to use their 6 cards and maybe use like 3 or 4 of them, and you'll probably end up getting get rid of most of your back row, but you're still going to leave some, and then if you have Chicken Game, you get 2 more, or a monster and back row. It's just really, really good. Just helps you replenish your back row and makes it so your opponent can't keep up and keep on making plays until they draw into Twin Twister and then you cry. Mind Crush, triple Mind Crush, because, well, notice. Controlling your opponent's side points is really useful because of both Chicken Game. You don't want your opponent to get the benefits of Chicken Game. And of course, being able to get rid of your opponent's cards in their hand is always good. And then for the rest of the trap holes are Nightmare and Bottomless, of course. They're both really good. There's no downside. Do be careful with Time Space though, because of life points. This is a lot of life points cost, especially with the Solemn Notice and the Solemn Warning. And then of course we're running the 1 Tech Starlight Road because, well, of Twin Twister, fuck Twin Twister. Vanity's Emptiness is of course a thing, but it's not that powerful anymore. But it's still nonetheless a thing. And this is the only stun card, well, besides Vanity's Emptiness, that doesn't really destroy it. It just slows the game down so much. It gives you so much advantage that it's really amazing. Do note you cannot activate this card if you can use a Graydle to take one of your opponent's special summon monsters. You cannot use it. You cannot activate it. But if it's already face up, no problem. Just be careful with this card because it's an extra deck lock on yourself. You won't be able to use Dionea. Well, you can use Dionea, you can summon Amulet, but you won't get to effect to pop back row. And it's an extra deck lock, which is what makes this card so amazing. It's like, oh, you want to Pendulum Summon, you want to do anything up, they're negated, bye-bye Sorcerer, or no effect Sorcerer. All in defense position, so you won't take damage if they can go for gain. It really pisses your opponents off. This card can really, really help a lot. Anyways, for the extra deck, Norden, Stardust Dragon for the Starlight Road, Infinity, and then, of course, Dark Rebellion, Ragnazir, just a whole bunch of rank 4s. The only ones to note are Rafflesia, which is still amazing. Because being able to send your entire deck, you get to pretty much have 6 back row. That's awesome. And your Traptrix monsters cannot be destroyed by battle or targeted, or card effect. And besides that, we're also running Heartland Draco, because if Chicken Game does get down, because life points will disappear quickly with Chicken Game. Like, you think this, I call this a slow deck, but the duels are really fast. Like, it's not going to take that many turns. Anyways, with Heartland Draco, just getting your opponent down into 4,000, because if you have either Impact or Chicken Game, they can't target Heartland Draco for attacks, which is amazing, and then your back row should protect them from card effects. You can pretty much poke your opponent to death, which is awesome. And that would be the only notable ones. The rest are generics. For a side deck, I put a side deck together because, well, this deck is really heavily reliant on a side deck. Be careful, Maxi, because it's an empty threat. We're not running any hand traps, and we don't run any hand traps because, well, effect failure doesn't destroy, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Sagi does destroy, but it's different. When you're playing against a person that's at 5, you play differently than when they set 3 and maybe have 2 Yu-Gi-Oh! Sagis in their hand. If you knew they had 2 Yu-Gi-Oh! Sagis, then yeah, you'd play different, but if you didn't, then of course you play different. But if you're going, know you're going to go second, then just be careful, put this card in. It can help out, because if your opponent knows they don't have game, then they're gonna stop. It's going to be really great control. You're going to get at least one draw off of it, and you're just going to help. Twin Twister, of course, more Twin Twisters, just if you decide it's really necessary. And then, of course, Time Space, and another Traptrix Shrapnel Nightmare, another Lose One Turn, Line of Prison Mirror for the Cosmos, because fuck the Cosmos. They're just so annoying because they get past my Graydles. Anti-Spell Fragrance, if you really like that card, you can side this in. I'm not really a big fan of it, but of course it is available, and of course it fucks over Twin Twister. Mistake is definitely a card I'd side in against Pepe, and so would be Stygian Dirge. I wouldn't side this in against a Synchro-based deck, but I would side this in against Pepe, because it would utterly destroy them. Wouldn't really have any of their big plays, and of course Mistake and Anti-Spell would slow them down even more. But do note, these are not stun cards. They won't get rid of your monster. Wizard can still attack, or Sorcerer, perform Power Pendulum. Sorcerer can still attack you directly, so you need to make choices, and it's because I mean, when looking at all these cards that you could side in, the question is, what do you want to side out? Because are you going to get rid of your Time Spaces? Okay, well, now you don't have good cards to get rid of your opponent's stuff. Are you going to get rid of your upstarts? Because, well, you're going to be siding in Max C probably against Pepe. You have to really get used to this deck. You have to play this deck a lot. You have to really understand the format to play this reactive deck, because you need to be able to see a deck and play this. And figure out what cards you need to side the moment you see something. And like game 1, you need to be thinking about your side deck. But I do want to point out that this deck is better at the rogue matchup than the proactive build. Like I was talking about at the beginning with Materia Beast and everything, that build does not do as well against just rogue decks. It just doesn't. But this deck, it does, because most decks are still going to try to Synchro or XZ summon. Most of them are still going to Search, and most of them are going to special summon monsters and then activate their effect. And most of them are going to summon monsters for you can take. Well, the proactive build, it's just too much control. It won't work against a lot of rogue decks. Honestly, I do have to say I feel the proactive build is a little bit better this format, because it's designed to beat Pepe. But I'm no Asian Eyes, and I realize that Pepe isn't the only deck this format. So if you're going to play a Traptrix deck, you got to make your choice. I understand that against Pepe, proactive would win more often than this deck. But for winning overall this format, this deck would probably be it. So make your choice, look at your locals, look if you can figure out what type of decks people will play at your regionals, make your choice. This is a fun deck. I enjoy playing this deck. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. See you guys later. Bye.